The grandfather clock in the corner chimed 3 times, its melody filling the book-lined study with a sound that spoke of old money and older traditions. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, warming the rich mahogany furniture and casting patterns across the Persian rug that had been in the Blackwood family for 5 generations. On the leather sofa, Marcus Blackwood lay with his eyes closed, his chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm of sleep. But sleep was the furthest thing from his mind. At 45, Marcus had spent 2 decades building Blackwood Enterprises into a multinational corporation. And he had learned one crucial lesson along the way. People revealed their true selves when they believed no one was watching. Today, he was about to discover the truth about someone who had quietly entered his life 3 months ago. The study door opened slowly, and Marcus heard the soft footsteps he had been expecting. Through the thin slits of his eyelids, he watched as Isabel Carter entered the room, her arms laden with fresh linens and cleaning supplies. Isabel was 30 years old, though worry and exhaustion had etched fine lines around her eyes that made her seem older. Her strawberry blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, held in place by a simple white headband. The gray housekeeping uniform she wore was crisp and clean, maintained with the same care she brought to everything she touched. What Marcus knew about Isabel Carter could fill a private investigator's report, which is exactly what it had filled. Widowed at 27 when her husband died in a construction accident, she was now raising their 6-year-old son alone while working 2 jobs. She cleaned houses during the day and waited tables at night, every dollar carefully saved toward her son's future. She had come to the Blackwood estate through an agency, replacing a maid who had been caught stealing silver. The agency owner had vouched for Isabel's character personally, calling her the most honest person she had ever employed. Marcus had hired her on the spot, but trust did not come easily to a man who had been betrayed by business partners, former friends, and even family members. So he had devised this test. On the round table beside the sofa, Marcus had left an envelope containing $3,000 in cash. The bills were arranged carelessly, as if he had been counting money before falling asleep and simply abandoned them. Beside the envelope lay his wallet, deliberately left open to reveal several credit cards and more cash. Next to these sat a small velvet box containing his late mother's pearl earrings, worth far more than the cash. The trap was set. An apparently sleeping employer, easy money, valuable jewelry, and no witnesses. Marcus had learned that desperation could turn even good people into thieves, and Isabel Carter was certainly desperate. He watched through barely parted eyelids as Isabel stood in the doorway, her eyes widening as she noticed first him on the sofa, then the money spread across the table. She froze completely, her knuckles white on the handle of her cleaning caddy. Marcus felt his heart rate quicken despite his controlled breathing. This was the moment that would reveal everything. He had conducted similar tests before with potential business partners, leaving valuable items unattended, creating opportunities for theft. The results had been depressingly consistent. Given the chance, most people took what was not theirs. But Isabel did something that caught Marcus completely off guard. She set down her cleaning supplies with exquisite care, as if afraid the slightest sound might disturb him. Then she approached the table and Marcus tensed, preparing for disappointment. Her hand reached out toward the money, and Marcus felt a familiar cynicism settle over him like a well-worn coat. Instead of taking the cash, Isabel began to gather the scattered bills with movements so gentle they seemed almost reverent. She counted them quietly, her lips moving soundlessly, then slipped them back into the envelope. She closed his wallet and placed it on top of the envelope. Then she picked up the velvet box and opened it, examining the pearl earrings inside. Marcus watched as her expression softened, a look of such profound sadness crossing her face that he nearly abandoned his pretense. She touched one earring delicately, then closed the box and placed it carefully beside the wallet and envelope. What happened next made Marcus question everything he thought he knew about human nature. Isabel looked around the study, her gaze moving across the leather furniture, the first edition books, The oil paintings that cost more than most people earned in a year. Then she pulled a small notepad from her apron pocket, the kind that cost less than $1 at any drugstore. She wrote something quickly, tore off the page, and placed it on top of the money and jewelry. Then she picked up her cleaning supplies and left the room as quietly as she had entered. Marcus remained still for a full minute after the door closed, his mind racing. Then he sat up and reached for the note she had left behind. The paper was cheap, the handwriting simple but clear. Mr. Blackwood, you left valuable items on the table. I have placed them together so you can put them somewhere safe when you wake. I hope you rested well. Isabel. Marcus stared at the note, reading it 3 times as if the words might change. She had not taken anything. She had not even been tempted as far as he could tell. Instead, she had been concerned for his property, worried that he might lose something valuable. He picked up the velvet box and opened it, looking at the pearl earrings his mother had worn on her wedding day. His mother, who had always told him that character was not something you could buy or inherit, but something you built through 10,000 small choices when no one was watching. Marcus Blackwood, who prided himself on never being surprised, sat in his study holding a dollar store note and feeling something crack open inside his carefully guarded heart. He found Isabel an hour later in the West Wing, cleaning the guest bedrooms with the same quiet efficiency she brought to all her work. She looked up as he entered, immediately setting down her dustcloth and standing straight. "Mr. Blackwood," she said, clearly nervous to have her employer seek her out. "Is something wrong? Did I forget something in the study?" "No," Marcus said, and he realized his voice was gentler than he intended. "You forgot nothing. In fact, you did something I need to discuss with you. Please sit down." Isabel perched on the edge of a chair, her hands folded in her lap, worry evident in every line of her body. "If I did something wrong, sir, I apologize." "I can fix it." Marcus pulled the note from his pocket and placed it on the table between them. "You left this for me, in the study, with the money and jewelry." Color flooded Isabel's cheeks. "I hope that was all right, sir. I just thought you would want to know they were there, in case you had forgotten. I did not want you to worry when you woke up." "There was $3,000 on that table," Marcus said quietly. "You worked 2 jobs to support your son. That money could have changed your life even for just a little while. Why did you not take it?" Isabel's eyes widened with shock, then something that looked like hurt. "Because it was not mine," she said, her voice trembling. "Mr. Blackwood, I would never steal from you. I would never steal from anyone. Even if you desperately needed it?" Marcus pressed. "Even if no one would ever know?" Isabel stood up abruptly, tears shining in her eyes. "I would know," she said, and there was quiet strength beneath the tears. "My son would grow up wondering why we suddenly had money. What would I tell him? That mommy is a thief? That it is okay to take things that do not belong to you if you need them badly enough?" She took a shaky breath, her hands clenched at her sides. "My husband died working an honest job, trying to provide for us the right way. Every night I'd tell our son about his father, about what a good man he was, about how he always did the right thing, even when it was hard. I will not dishonor my husband's memory by teaching our son that stealing is acceptable." Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a sensation he had not experienced in years. Shame, he realized. He was feeling ashamed of himself. "I was testing you," he admitted, the words tasting bitter. "I left that money there deliberately. I wanted to see what you would do when you thought I was asleep." Isabel wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Then I hope I passed your test, Mr. Blackwood. Now, if you will excuse me, I have work to finish." "Wait," Marcus said as she turned to leave. "Please. I owe you an apology." Isabel turned back slowly, her expression guarded. "I have been betrayed many times in my life," Marcus said, the admission coming harder than he expected. "Business partners who embezzled money, friends who turned out to want only my wealth, even family members who forged my signature on documents. I built walls around myself, tested everyone who came close, assumed the worst of people before they could prove me right." He picked up the cheap notepad paper, looking at her careful handwriting. "But you did not know I was testing you, did you? You simply did what you thought was right. You protected my property and left me a kind note, asking nothing in return. It is how I was raised, Isabel said quietly. My parents always said that rich or poor, what matters is who you are when nobody is looking. I may not have much, Mr. Blackwood, but I have my integrity. Nobody can take that from me unless I give it away. Marcus walked to the window, looking out at the manicured grounds of his estate. I want to offer you something, he said, still facing the window. Not as a reward for passing a test, but as an apology for subjecting you to one in the first place. He turned back to face her. I need someone I can trust to manage my household. Someone with integrity, someone who cares about doing things right. The position pays 3 times what you make at both your current jobs combined, with health insurance for you and your son, and housing in the guest cottage on the property. You would work reasonable hours so you can be there for your son after school. Isabel stared at him, her mouth opening and closing without sound. Additionally, Marcus continued, I would like to establish a college fund for your son. My mother believed that education was the greatest gift you could give a child. She would have liked you, I think. She would have appreciated your values. I do not understand, Isabel whispered. Why would you do this? Because you reminded me of something I had forgotten, Marcus said simply. That goodness still exists in this world. That not everyone has a price. That my mother was right when she said character matters more than wealth. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. But this one did not contain a test. It contained a formal job offer, complete with salary, benefits, and a start date. This is real, he said, offering it to her. No tricks, no tests. Just an offer to someone who deserves a chance. Isabel took the envelope with shaking hands. She opened it, read the contents, and tears began to stream down her face. This is more money than I have ever made in my life, she said, her voice breaking. I could give my son a real childhood. I could be home for dinner. I could stop being so tired all the time. Then say yes, Marcus said gently. Yes, Isabel breathed. Yes, thank you, yes. She looked up at him, and Marcus saw hope shining through the tears. But Mr. Blackwood, I need you to understand something. I would have been honest with you even if you had not offered me this job. I would have left that note and walked away with nothing, because that is who I am. This job does not change that. I know, Marcus said, and he meant it. That is exactly why I am offering it to you. As Isabel left to finish her shift, clutching the offer letter like a lifeline, Marcus returned to his study. He sat on the leather sofa where he had pretended to sleep, testing a good woman who deserved better. He picked up the velvet box containing his mother's earrings and opened it once more. His mother had worn these on the day she married his father, believing in love and goodness and the fundamental decency of people. Life had taught Marcus to believe in none of those things. But today, a widow with a dollar store notepad and more integrity than most people he had met in boardrooms had taught him that his mother might have been right all along. Marcus picked up his phone and called his attorney. I need you to draft some documents, he said. I want to establish a scholarship fund for single parents who are working multiple jobs to support their families. Something substantial. Something that would have helped someone like Isabel Carter before she had to work herself to exhaustion. As he hung up the phone, Marcus looked around his study, at the trappings of wealth that had never quite filled the emptiness inside. He realized that he had spent 20 years building an empire while forgetting to build a life. He had tested everyone who came close, protecting his money while losing his humanity. It had taken a housemaid's honesty to show him what he had become. 3 months later, Isabel Carter moved into the guest cottage with her son Thomas, a bright 6-year-old with his mother's gentle eyes and his father's ready smile. Marcus found himself stopping by in the evenings, drawn by the sound of laughter and life that had been missing from his estate for too long. Thomas called him Mr. Marcus and told him stories about school and superheroes and his dad in heaven who watched over them. Isabel created a home that was warm and welcoming, managing the household with quiet competence while never losing the integrity that had defined her from the start. And Marcus Blackwood, who had tested everyone around him and found them wanting, finally stopped testing and started trusting. He learned that the greatest wealth was not in his bank account, but in the character of the people who surrounded him. He discovered that the best investment he ever made was in someone who had never asked for anything except the chance to do. Honest work for honest pay. Sometimes the people we test end up teaching us the most important lessons. And sometimes the greatest fortune is not the money we accumulate, but the goodness we recognize when it stands before us in a housekeeping uniform and a dollar store note. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about integrity, second chances, and the moments that change us forever. Comment below and tell us about a time when someone's honesty restored your faith in humanity, or when doing the right thing led you to an unexpected blessing. Your story matters, and we would love to hear it.